to drink. Be out on his own.
Stop. This must be too loud.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
That might be better. I think it was up too loud. All right.
You ready?
We, I think, are ready.
Ends at the rocks. $19.
Well, I guess I go first tonight. Nice shot. The lighthouse has a little bit of a tilt to it. That's something that could be corrected. God didn't send the clouds that day. It's a little bright sun, but again, when you're on vacation or whenever you're at the place, you have to take the shot and move on. But composition's good.
Do you want to move down this way a little ways? We're kind of way over to the side. Let's go down this way.
Do you guys think that maybe you should turn the screen towards you a little bit? Because I didn't think that looked crooked.
Off kilter?
I think if you're off center a little bit too much, I think it might not look straight. If you're sitting,
How's that look?
does that look better to you guys?
Yeah. Better?
Where the bears have tea. Parties. $17.
This is a clever setup. The colors are very nice, so the saturation is good. And it's definitely where the sidewalk ends. The composition is not bad. It's just a nice shot. Very cute.
It's
Lighthouse 2. $22.
Technically, this is a nice shot. The exposure seems to be really well done. I like the composition with the lighthouse off to the side. The colorization is good. It's not too bright or not too dark. It could stand a little more wow factor, but it's a nice moody picture.
I think I'll walk the stairs. $16.
Well, that was a cute picture to catch. Technically, I do think that we are out of focus somewhat, not tack sharp on the head part of it. Composition-wise, yeah, I mean, you were catching the shot, so there wasn't a lot of preparation for composure, but overall, an interesting shot.
Where the sidewalk ends. $18.
This is a nice place for the sidewalk to end. However, it looks like you're going for a centered image and the balance is just a little off. When you're trying to do a symmetrical image, you want both sides to be even. So I would have straightened myself out a little bit on those steps. Other than that, the saturation is very nice. That's about all.
Heading for the sunrise. $25.
This has great drama to it. I like the composition, I like the boat being off to the left-hand side, and yet we still have something on the right-hand side to fill up the void. The composition is good. It has a painterly effect on it, which gives it some interest and gives it some wow factor. You handle the sun very well. It is not overbearing, and so I think that overall you did a very good job on this picture.
Morning walk. $23.
This is a well-composed photograph, leading lines, the moodiness or the fog, and that just really gives it a mood, like I said. Composition, like I said, is good, and I think that just the placement of the sun there, there's nothing blowing through really, so overall nice shot.
Where the trail ends. $17.
This is a nice shot of the woods. It's there's not a lot of contrast, and I would take off just part of the right side to give it a more balanced feel composition-wise. That way your trees would be a little closer to the third, and that would make it a more appealing picture.
The sidewalk ends at the beach. $19.
The exposure seems to be good. Our composition is busy. It's all over the place. I'm having trouble finding someplace to land. There's a lot to look at in this picture, which I think hurts it somewhat because it's not, I can't settle in on something. But you handled the exposure good. And the way the sand is, it gives you the impression that the horizon is not straight, though I do think the horizon is straight. But I do think you used a wide-angled lens, which gave you kind of a bowed look about your sand, and that can be fixed. So it does give you the impression, though, that you're kind of going downhill, though I know that you probably were just fine. But it is busy, where do I look busy?
The old hollowed tree. $21.
How cool. Little compositing going on here. The, it's sharp. The idea and the way that it's placed, certainly the composition is creative, and I think that it's a well thought out photo.
Field. $20.
The exposure is good on this. The sky, the colors are very, very pretty. Composition-wise, it's not bad, but it lacks a spot to land.
Just around the corner. $24.
Your exposure is right on, your composition is strong. I like the fact that we're going up this path, this sidewalk path, and we did have something to land on when we got up there because we had that red door. If that red door wasn't there, it would have lacked something. So we did go up this path and we did have something to land on. You handled the shaded area and the bright area well. They're both exposed good. We didn't have any highlights that are blown out. So I think you handled it very good. I think it's a pretty good shot.
Roosevelt Island stroll. $23.
It's a nice black and white. I think it looks good in black and white. The cityscape and the shadowing, everything looks composed pretty well. It's sharp, it's interesting, and certainly fits the topic.
Standing firm. $24.
The exposure and moodiness of this picture really makes it pop. It does have a wow factor, and you have definitely a place to land. The curve in the sidewalk brings you right up to that building. The horizon of the yard in front brings you out, and then you go right back in. Very nice.
A blend in the flow where the sidewalk ends. $20.
I think your exposure is a little off. I would have liked to see just a bit more contrast. I think it's a little too light on the top. I would like to see the top either eliminated more or have something back there that makes me want to look at it. I know what your subject is supposed to be is this waterfall, but I bypass the waterfall and I go back to those trees, which are boring. So I need to either get rid of some of those trees and go back down to the waterfall, or move the camera down so I would have had more waterfall, or something on that effect. And I do think that the top part of it is just a little too light.
Boardwalk passage. $25.
Boy, this is nice. You see a lot of pictures of the house boats and such. This is done very well. The flowers in the front certainly start you right into that picture of wanting to walk right down that boardwalk. The saturation, the exposure, everything looks good on this shot. Nice job.
Frozen pond. $23.
Even though the bridge is not horizontal, the horizon is, you can see that in the background. The water brings you into the picture. You go over to the red barn and go back around. Nice job.
Sidewalk on Roosevelt Island. $23.
The use of black and white here has allowed us to focus in on the architecture of the picture, the trees, and we're not bothered by all different colors of buildings and all that. So it allows us to be focusing in on the composition. The composition is good. We would have liked to had something on that path to look at, maybe a person or something on that order. But compositionally wise, I think you were smart to put this into black and white. I would have liked to seen your blacks are black and your whites are almost white, but we got a whole bunch of gray in there that's all the same gray. I would have liked to see a little more contrast, not a lot of contrast, just a little more contrast, just so our grays had more dynamic range to them.
Trail to the Sun.
You okay?
I think so. It just wasn't in all the way.
All right. Yes, I was supposed to be voting.
25.
Well, we're getting to the time of the year where we can take a walk and find something like this. I think it's, again, well composed, that the path on the left side brings you in. Certainly, the colors in the sky are well done, not oversaturated. The bright green lawn, it looks pretty normal to me if it's nice and maybe damp in the morning there, or unless this is a sunset and I'm backwards on that, but I really think that it's a nice shot. Good catch.
Time to relax. $19.
This is a sweet shot. Her eyes aren't quite sharp, but sometimes when it's a child, I think softness can be a plus too. The red behind her really makes her stand out. And composition-wise, you have that leading line going to the back, but you stop at her and you just go back to the flowers and back around to her. So, very nice composition.
So, where to next? "22.
Children are hard to photograph, I know. This child, this would have been a stronger photograph, I think, if the child would have been looking at the camera. That doesn't always happen. So I gave you a few points off because the child's looking off somewhere and I want to know, what is he looking at? He's not looking at me. Also, I think it's good that you used the black and white because I can see between his striped shirt and the hat and the toy and all that's there. It would have been very, very busy with all these different colors. So it was good that you used the black and white, but I would have certainly liked the child looking more towards the camera and less off in the distance where I have no idea what he's looking at.
Path of Lost Freedom. "26.
I'm glad I didn't have to walk that path.
Me too.
This is a neat place to photograph. All kinds of textures, the lighting, the composition. This photograph certainly was well done. I think that I'm questioning just a tiny bit about the sidewalk ending. I don't know if the sidewalk was inside the prison, but that's just me. But overall, this is a cool shot.
The Door to Peace.
Oop, I hit the wrong button. I don't know what it's gonna do. And I'll try and vote, but it might screw it up. Did you get one okay?
Yep.
Okay.
27.
Very nice composition. The effect is interesting. It makes it look peaceful, which goes with the title. Nice shot.
Hurry. "27.
This is a good photojournalistic picture. It's telling us a story. She's carrying this. She's hurrying up so that she can get rid of this burden that she's carrying. I like the motion of her feet. You know that she's moving, moving, moving. I like the motion in the background. So we feel that hurry of her. Yet the person is relatively sharp. So I think you handled this wonderful. I gave you a 10.
Where the Road Ends. "16.
The photograph is somewhat lacking when it comes to saturation, contrast. It's certainly, the sky looks nice, but I think a lot more detail and could have come out with some post-processing. It looks like, a midday shot, not a lot of wow factor.
Chateau La Roche.
Jack just said, is that anything like the Roach Motel?
23.
The only thing, and here again, when you're at a place like this, you have to take the picture when you get the opportunity. It's obviously taking at the brightest time of day. With some post-processing, you can bring out more detail in the rocks and the door. But the composition is great. Your leading line is right into that door, which is where you want to go. But some saturation, contrast would really make this picture pop.
End to end and in between. "24.
This is the composition in this is busy, though it's interesting. We have a lot of lines going down the middle here that's leading us back to that bridge. And so then we have the bridge to look at. But we do have a lot of what's going on here. There's things going here and things going there. So it's hard, it's difficult to have our eye land on something. But it's a great long exposure, and it certainly does show a where you're at. It's like a picture that you would show to show what this is where I was visiting, this is where I was at, and how interesting it is. But there is a lot to look at.
Sedona Trail. "23.
Kind of a rugged outdoor shot for sure. I think that this type of scenery is so interesting to photograph, and all the different shapes and sizes. Different time of the day, you might have got some more drama with shadows. I do think you may have been able to pop this a little bit more with, not tons, but a little more saturation and contrast. And not that everybody has this, but one nice feature of the Nik software is the structure slider. And on pictures like this, that does really bring out a lot of neat, more look at the crevices, that type of thing. But overall, you know, this is a typical out west shot. Nice shot.
"Beginning of the End."
Yours is not it. It would be helpful if you gave it to her. We haven't fun.
20.
We haven't fun yet. I knew we were. Okay, my turn.
I like the bridge. The bridge is interesting. It's interesting to look at. It makes me want to go over that bridge and find out what is down that trail. I'm finding though that it's busy with all the branches up and around and around and around and around. I'm finding it kind of busy. But I love that bridge, and I might have taken some off the top or off to the right, because those bright branches are taking my eye away from that good-looking bridge.
Page 19 of the book.
It's from the actual book.
Oh. Where the sidewalk,
Where the sidewalk ends.
Thanks.
I just read that.
16.
Pulled up all the different titles and all the things in the book. I forgot
I
that.
overheard Patty here say it might be the 19 is the page of a book about a sidewalk? Where the
No, the
sidewalk?
Sidewalk Ends is by Shel Silverstein. It's a
Right. It-
Yeah,
group of
so
poems
this is a
and-
picture of
yeah.
that page, is what I'm thinking, or the wording was taken from that page over top of a picture that was taken by
The maker.
the maker here. It's a different type of picture. It's kind of difficult, I guess, to figure it all out after I've just talked for the last 2 minutes, but clever shot for what the maker was going for.
Spring on Calm Avenue. "23.
The exposure is good. It looks like it might have been a little bright that day. But I think you brought some contrast in there to make it pop a little more. The trees are very pretty. Nice composition, but there's nowhere to land unless it's the water. Yeah, the drain cover. That's the only thing that I can land on.
We're landing here.
Yeah, there you go.
End of the line. "25.
Your picture is exposed well for a night shot. It's done very well. You've used a small aperture so that your your lights are having a star effect, and that makes it interesting. I think it's stretching a little bit when we say this is where the sidewalk ends. I don't see much of a sidewalk, just this little bit over here. I think it's a very nice travel shot.
Where the sidewalk ends. "18.
The photograph, again, I think is lacking some contrast, some saturation. The subject there to the right is placed properly. However, in a photograph like this, I would expect that the silhouette, would be more sharp. Looks like there was movement in that. Even the sunset, it's not as impactful or wow as you might expect for a picture. Thank you.
The beckoning door. Beacon.
Back in.
That's says beacon.
Beacon?
That says beacon.
But you
Come
want
back
to
down.
say play on words and
Yeah, play on words.
It's a
still
beacon
beckon.
of the door that's beckoning us to be.
24.
The door is very tiny in comparison with everything else in the picture, so it's kind of lost. And I wish we could see more of the top of the lighthouse. The leaves of the palm trees are hiding it. I think that would be more your focal point than the door, but that's just my opinion. Others may see that differently. I do like the bike in front of the door. That kind of adds to the interest. The color in the trees seems a tiny bit off. It could need a little more contrast and saturation, which we've talked about before, but that can be a personal opinion too.
Road closed. $17.
Tells us a story about the road being closed. I'm not sure that has anything to do with the sidewalk, except that must be where the sidewalk ends, is at the road that's closed. So our focal point is here, which is in a good third spot, and then we go back to nothing. So do we need to come back this way? Do we come back this way? I find myself looking here and then looking there, and there's nothing there.
The lighthouse. $18.
Seem to be getting a lot of lighthouses tonight. Sidewalks go there, I guess. Overall, composition is fair. The coloring in the photograph, I'm not quite sure what went on. Looks a little yellowed toward the top. I don't know what that is, the way the sky would have looked. It's a nice shot, nice, for history's sake, or to, keep a shot of something that you were able to visit.
The place where the sidewalk ends. $26.
This time of year, you want to be sitting there instead of in Erie. This is obviously taking at sunset because of the color cast on the picture, which you want that. You don't want to get rid of that. It's nice and sharp. The composition is good. I don't see much that I would change.
Chicago, big city where the sidewalks never end. $21.
Our bald sky is not doing this picture any good whatsoever. It is really brings my eye right up here, and this is where I am, and I don't go back down here. A split neutral density filter, which is a filter that would go across this way, this would be darker, this would be lighter, would help because that would darken down that sky and then my eye wouldn't stay up there. And it would make it more even with this part down here, so that the exposure on the two parts would be very similar. If you want me to look down here, you better put somebody in a red boat, because I can't do that. I keep looking up here where there's nothing.
On the edge. $22.
It's a nice shot of a bird. Everything looks pretty good focus there. Snow's done pretty well. Background certainly complements. I would question a little bit, again, on the topic of where the sidewalk ends. But as an overall photograph, pretty good job.
Bad water basin, 282 feet below sea level. $17.
This image lacks a point to land on. The deck is cut off. If you had the whole deck in there, it might have added a place to land. It's more like a record shot of a vacation.
Dormitory. $23.
I like the fact that you made this sepia. I think that adds a lot to this picture, because this dormitory looks to me to be old and moody, and the fact that you used the sepia tone certainly does add to that feeling. And I like the way that the composition is very symmetrical.
That's because it's a mirror image of itself.
It is. It's a mirror image of itself. It looks good.
That's really slick.
So I think you did a very nice job. I like the way we just go right up there and we have something to land on. I think you made it simple but dramatic.
That was great. $26.
26, Sarah Garrett.
Nice.
Sarah there. That's the bronze, right? Yeah.
I think that's still next.
I didn't see
I didn't see it, Bonnie White.
Oh, Bonnie White.
Two 23s. Is that count?
Why didn't they show, why aren't the names shown?
We didn't-
Oh, there we go.
It didn't do it first last time either.
I know, I don't, what,
Gerald.
Gerald?
and
So
For the
Gerald
frozen
is the
pond.
frozen pond.
Candy.
Nice.
Oops. Paul Cooper.
Paul
Nice.
Cooper.
Sam Ward.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Award.
That's it. That's it.
No, you didn't combine the levels.
What?
You didn't combine the levels.
Sorry about that. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Marina on fire.
Thinking. Thinking.
22.
Well, there's sure some drama in that sky. Erie gives it to us. Overall, this is a nice shot. I think that the exposure is good. The forefront with the pole and stuff, it's always good to have something up front like that. I'm not sure that this would be, the best choice. It's kind of large and maybe kind of pulls you right there too much. Again, it's a beautiful, beautiful shot with that sunset.
Dreaming. $21.
He looks so peaceful and cozy and warm. It's a nice shot, nice clear background. Does not disrupt anything about the image of the child, which is what you want to see. Nice exposure. Overall, very nice image.
The cottage. $17.
This looks like it was a great place to visit. These red flowers on this side are pulling my eye over here. I would have liked to see maybe more of those red flowers. This white water feature is pulling my eye over there. It looks overexposed. Which is my subject? I'm going back and forth. I want my subject to be in here or there or here, but I've got two subjects here and there. So I'm going back and forth, back and forth. This one's not exposed properly. This is half off the picture. I want to see either more of it or none of it. If that was the crop there, then maybe my subject would have been here and I would have landed there. Or if it was cut off there, you would have stepped over to the right more. Maybe we would have had more foreground of the flowers, which would have brought me back to those flowers. And why do I do that?
Seasons End. $24.
This picture's done nicely, nice composition. The exposure's good. The post-processing that was used on this, I think did it justice. Now that's me, my opinion. I think it adds drama, just a moodiness to it, and overall well done.
Flowers left at Korean War Memorial, Washington, D.C. Kilroy was here. $17.
I look for things like this. I find them very interesting. The only thing, I think it's a little bright. Again, the wrong time of day, but you do have detail. Other than that, it's an interesting shot.
Ithaca Stream. $22.
The water leading up to here is nice. We have a nice leading line that comes up to here, and so that is a good thing. In our milky water, because of the slow exposure, the longer exposure, making the water flow like milky is interesting to see. So we have a nice leading line that comes up here to this waterfall. We've got a waterfall that's interesting to look at here and here. And I got this big bright green thing up here. I would have liked to have seen you, in post-processing, just bring that down a little bit. I think it would have made for a stronger image.
Great blue heron in pond. $23.
The subject is placed well in the picture, room to kind of think about where he's looking. It seems to me that it's a little bit oversaturated, although I know some of these swampy areas, can have that brilliant green look to it. The flowers, like down in the front, aren't real sharp. Not that that's the focal point, but I would think that maybe those could have been a little sharper. Open up your f-stops, or going up into your smaller f-stops. Overall, though, it's nice to catch an image like this.
Spring Freedom. $25.
This is another panned image, which is not the easiest thing to do, to capture the motion in the background, the wheels, but keep the subject clear and sharp. Very nice, very, very good job.
Broken Panes. $22.
I like the post-processing of this. I think it helps to add interest to this picture. And the fact that you've got these two down here in this strong part of the picture, when you divide it into thirds, that's at one of the strong points. I think that is very helpful. The subject is not that exciting, but I think you handled it well by using this post-processing filter on it.
Sure, I'll pose for you. $26.
Okay, how'd you get him to pose that way? A nice shot. It's sharp. Colors are good. And certainly, it just kind of grabs your attention, has some wow factor the way that he is posed, and so it looks like he's starting to do the jig there, that left foot coming off the rail. And good shot.
Can you go back for a second? Bob,
Oh,
Thank
No,
you.
it's not hers.
Oh, okay. The only thing that bothers me is that black spot on his chest. It looks like he was shot. Sorry.
I was gonna say the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
that's because he's stuffed. That's how they got him to come.
Okay. Other than that, great job.
Holding the sails. 17.
This is another shot I look for. The only thing that bothers me is the rope in the front, the very first rope from the left is tack sharp, no, from the left, rather left, is tack sharp, or close to tack sharp, and the other two look blurry to me. And the wood on the back of the round piece looks a little blurry. I would prefer to see this sharp. But an interesting composition, and nice coloring, but it looks like a bright time of day.
Greek church. $24.
Our focal point is this, which is in the, close to where the rule of thirds is, so that makes that strong. I like the fact that it's very simple composition. I think it's a very hot day, but I think you handled that brightness quite well. I like the blue against the yellow. They're contrasting colors and complementary colors to each other. And I love the fact that you made it very simple. I also love that red right in there. I think you handled this really good.
Lower Falls. $28.
Boy, this is done well. Many times in a waterfall picture like this, the maker might tend to try to get the sky in there and kind of pull your eye up that way. Water might not be so nicely exposed. I can't see where I can comment anything on this other than that this is a rarity to have such a beautiful fall day waterfall picture like this. Very good job.
Tidal Basin 2015 Cherry Blossoms. $21.
In this image, you definitely know what your subject matter is. It's nicely framed. And I'm going back and forth about the, I think it's a little boat in the front. If you took that out, the water would be empty. And I'm not so sure that that's what you would want, but it is very nicely framed. Nice exposure, composition, good image.
Leave that up, yeah. Leave that up for me, would you please? Thank you. I feel that branch down in there is disturbing. I think I would have taken that branch out, whether it be